I watched her fingers trace the rim of her wine glass, deliberate and slow. Barbara hadn't changed, still commanding attention without saying a word. At 70, she carried herself with the same authority that had once made my pulse race in those conference rooms 20 years ago. "You're staring," she said, not looking up, that familiar smirk playing at her lips. I felt heat rise in my cheeks. Some things never change. The restaurant hummed around us, but her presence pulled everything into sharp focus. When she finally met my eyes, something electric passed between us, the same tension that had simmered beneath our professional relationship all those years ago. Quick favor before we dive deeper. If you're enjoying this, hit that like button and subscribe. It takes 2 seconds but means everything to me. Plus, you'll never miss when I drop the next story. Now let's see where this evening takes us. "You look good, Kate," Barbara said, her voice carrying that low, confident tone I remembered. At 68, I'd learned to appreciate compliments, especially from someone whose opinion had once shaped my entire career. "Thank you. You haven't aged a day." It wasn't flattery. She truly hadn't. Her silver hair was perfectly styled, her dark suit impeccable, and those piercing blue eyes still held the same intensity that could make junior executives stumble over presentations. We'd chosen this upscale Boston restaurant for our reunion, somewhere neutral, somewhere safe. I'd told myself this was just dinner between former colleagues, catching up on retirement and grandchildren. But the way she looked at me across the candlelit table suggested she had different ideas about how this evening would unfold. "I've missed our conversations," she said, leaning forward slightly. "You were always my most interesting employee." The pause was deliberate, loaded with meaning. I felt my breath catch, memories flooding back of late nights in her office, the way she'd stand just a little too close when reviewing documents, how her hand would linger on my shoulder during meetings. Those were different times, I managed, taking a sip of wine to steady myself. Were they? Her eyebrow arched in that familiar way. Or were we just too focused on propriety to explore what was really happening between us? The directness was so very Barbara. She'd built her career on decisive action, on taking what she wanted. I'd watched her command boardrooms, negotiate million-dollar deals, and now she was turning that same focused intensity on me. My body responded before my mind could catch up, warmth spreading through my chest, settling lower. "I always wondered," she continued, her voice dropping to barely above a whisper, "what might have happened if we'd been braver back then?" Her fingers moved across the table, brushing against mine. The contact was electric, sending a jolt through my entire system. "Barbara," I started, but she silenced me with a look. "I'm not the same woman who played by corporate rules," she said. "Retirement has given me perspective on what matters, on what I want." Her thumb traced over my knuckles, a simple gesture that felt profoundly intimate. "And I've always wanted you, Kate." The confession hung in the air between us. 20. Years of suppressed attraction, of professional boundaries, of what if suddenly crystallized into this moment. I looked into her eyes and saw not just desire, but something deeper. Recognition, understanding, the acknowledgement of a connection that had never truly faded. "Where do you want this to go?" I asked, surprised by the steadiness of my own voice. She smiled, and I saw a glimpse of something softer beneath her commanding exterior. "My hotel suite. If you're willing to let me show you who I really am when the office walls come down." I should have hesitated. I should have considered the implications, the complexity of reuniting with someone who had once held such power over my professional life. Instead, I found myself nodding, my body already responding to the promise in her voice. "Yes," I whispered. The taxi ride to her hotel was charged with anticipation. She sat close enough that I could smell her perfume, the same sophisticated scent she'd worn in those conference rooms. Her hand rested on my thigh, not possessive but present, a constant reminder of where this evening was heading. When she leaned in to whisper directions to the driver, her breath brushed my ear, sending shivers down my spine. Her suite overlooked the city lights, all floor-to-ceiling windows and elegant furniture. She moved to the bar, pouring 2 glasses of something amber and expensive. "To new beginnings," she said, handing me a glass. Our fingers touched as I accepted it, and this time neither of us pulled away. "I need you to understand something," she said, setting her glass aside. "In that office, I had to maintain distance, had to keep things professional. But here, tonight, I want to give you everything I held back." She stepped closer, her presence filling my awareness. "I want to take care of you the way I've always wanted to." Her hands came up to frame my face, thumbs brushing over my cheekbones. The touch was gentle but certain, and when she leaned in to press her lips to mine, it felt like coming home and stepping into unknown territory all at once. The touch was soft at first, exploratory, but when I responded, melting into her embrace, it deepened into something hungrier. She guided me backward until my legs met the edge of the couch. "Sit," she murmured against my lips, and I obeyed without thinking. The command was gentle but unmistakable, and I realized how much I'd missed having someone take charge, someone who knew exactly what they wanted. She knelt in front of me, her hands moving to my shoes, removing them with care. "You always carried so much tension in your shoulders," she said, her fingers moving to the buttons of my blouse. "Let me help you relax." Each button came undone slowly, deliberately, her eyes never leaving mine. When the fabric fell away, she paused, drinking in the sight of me. "Beautiful," she whispered, her hands ghosting over the curves of my silhouette. "I've imagined this so many times." Her touch was reverent, exploring, learning the map of my body with the same methodical precision she'd once brought to quarterly reports. When her lips followed the path her hands had traced, I gasped, my body responding with an intensity that surprised me. She took her time, paying attention to every reaction, every sharp intake of breath. Her focus was complete, unwavering, and I felt myself surrendering to her guidance. "That's it," she murmured, her voice full of approval. "Let go. Let me take care of everything." Her words washed over me. Permission and command rolled into one. I found myself relaxing into her touch, trusting her to lead us wherever this was going. She moved with confidence, her hands sure and skilled. Every touch seemed calculated to draw maximum response, to build the tension between us slowly, deliberately. When she shifted position, settling beside me on the couch, I turned into her embrace automatically. "I want to feel you," I whispered, my hands moving to the fabric of her suit jacket. She smiled, allowing me to undress her with the same careful attention she'd shown me. Beneath the professional exterior was skin that felt warm and real, curves that spoke of a woman who knew her own body, her own desires. We moved together, finding a rhythm that felt both familiar and entirely new. Her touch was confident, experienced, guided by years of knowing what she wanted and how to get it. She read my responses like she'd once read market analyses, adjusting her approach based on what worked, what made me arch into her touch. "You're incredible," she breathed against my throat, her hands mapping the sensitive spots that made me shiver. "I knew you would be." The praise sent warmth flooding through me, validation from someone whose opinion had always mattered. The evening blurred into a series of sensations, the softness of her lips, the strength in her hands, the way she seemed to anticipate my needs, before I even recognized them myself. She took control in the way I remembered from our working relationship, but here it felt natural, desired, a gift rather than an imposition. When exhaustion finally claimed us, we lay tangled together on the couch, her fingers tracing lazy patterns on my back. "Stay," she murmured. "Please." The vulnerability in her voice was new, a crack in the commanding facade that made her seem more human, more real. I woke in her arms as dawn painted the city in soft gold. She was already awake, watching me with those intelligent eyes. "Good morning," she said, her voice soft with sleep and satisfaction. "How are you feeling?" I took inventory. My body felt alive, awakened in ways I'd forgotten were possible. "Different," I said honestly. "Good different." She smiled, pressing a kiss to my forehead. "I'm glad. I was hoping—" She trailed off, suddenly uncertain in a way that was entirely unlike the Barbara I remembered. "Hoping what?" I prompted. "That this wouldn't be just one night," she admitted. "That maybe we could explore this, see where it leads." The proposition hung between us, heavy with possibility. I thought about my quiet retirement, my predictable routines, and realized how much I'd been craving exactly this kind of disruption. "I'd like that," I said, and her smile was radiant. We spent the morning talking, really talking, about the attraction that had simmered between us for years, about regrets and possibilities, about what we wanted now that we were free from the constraints that had once defined our relationship. 3 weeks later, I met my friend Liz for our regular coffee date. She studied me across the table with the shrewd eyes of someone who'd known me for 40 years. "You're different," she said finally, glowing. "What's going on?" I felt heat rise in my cheeks, remembering Barbara's hands on my skin just hours before. "I'm seeing someone," I admitted. "Someone from my past." Liz's eyebrows shot up. "Do tell." I found myself sharing more than I'd intended, about Barbara, about the evening that changed everything, about how she'd awakened parts of me I'd thought were dormant forever. "She sounds intense," Liz said when I finished. "Is she good to you?" The question was loaded with concern and curiosity. "Very good," I said, thinking of how Barbara had spent the previous evening focusing entirely on my pleasure, learning my body with the same dedication she'd once brought to her career. "And the age thing doesn't bother you?" I laughed. "Liz, we're all in our 60s and 70s. What's 2 years? Besides," I added, thinking of Barbara's confident touch, her unwavering attention, experience has its advantages. That evening, Barbara cooked dinner at her apartment. She moved around the kitchen with the same purposeful efficiency she brought to everything, but now I could appreciate the grace in her movements, the way her body moved beneath her clothes. "You're staring again," she said without turning around. "Can you blame me?" I asked, moving up behind her, slipping my arms around her waist. She leaned back into my embrace, and I marveled at how natural this felt, how right. "Never," she murmured, turning in my arms. "I love the way you look at me." The evening unfolded with the same intensity as our first night together. Barbara had a way of making me feel like the center of the universe, like nothing existed except her attention, her touch, her unwavering focus on my pleasure. She took control naturally, guiding us through experiences that left me breathless and satisfied. "I need you to know something," she said afterward, as we lay entwined in her bed. "This isn't just physical for me. You've always fascinated me, challenged me. I want all of you, not just your body." The honesty in her voice made my heart race. "You have all of me," I whispered back, and meant it. Months passed, and our relationship deepened. Barbara's commanding nature extended beyond the bedroom. She planned our dates, chose our destinations, made decisions with the confidence I'd always admired. But she also showed me her softer side, the vulnerability she kept hidden from the world. One evening, as she traced patterns on my bare shoulder, I asked the question that had been building in my mind. "Do you ever miss it? The power, the corporate world?" She was quiet for a long moment. "I thought I would," she said finally. "But this, us, gives me something that boardroom never could. The power to make you happy, to take care of you, to watch you bloom under my attention. That's worth more than any deal I ever closed." Her words sent warmth flooding through me. At our age, when many people were winding down, settling into quiet routines, Barbara had given me adventure, passion, and a sense of being truly seen and desired. She challenged me, pushed me beyond my comfort zone, and held me safe while I explored new aspects of myself. The way she looked at me, like I was precious, desirable, worth pursuing, had transformed how I saw myself. In her eyes, I wasn't just a retired professional marking time until the inevitable. I was a woman worthy of desire, capable of passion, deserving of pleasure. "I love you," I told her one night, the words slipping out before I could second-guess them. Her smile was brilliant, transformative. "I love you too," she replied, "more than I ever thought possible at this stage of life." Now, a year later, we've built something beautiful together. Barbara still takes charge, still makes decisions, with that characteristic confidence, but she's learned to share power, to listen, to let me lead sometimes too. Our friends have adjusted to seeing us together, though some still seem surprised by the intensity of our connection. "You two are like teenagers," Liz observed recently, watching Barbara's hand rest possessively on my thigh during dinner. "It's actually inspiring. I didn't know people our age could still have that kind of chemistry." Barbara's fingers tightened slightly, a subtle reminder of her presence, her claim on me. "Age is just a number," she said, her voice carrying that familiar authority. "Passion doesn't have an expiration date." Later that night, she proved her point thoroughly, reminding me exactly why I'd fallen for my former boss's commanding presence all over again. Her touch was as confident as ever, her attention as focused, her ability to make me feel desired as powerful as that first night in her hotel suite. "No regrets?" she asked, her fingers tracing lazy circles on my skin. "Never," I breathed, meaning it completely. "You showed me who you really are, and I love every bit of it." Sometimes the most unexpected encounters become the most meaningful. Barbara didn't just re-enter my life, she transformed it, showing me that it's never too late for passion, for connection, for allowing someone to take charge and guide you toward happiness you didn't even know you were missing. If someone from your past appeared today with that same confidence, that same focused attention, would you have the courage to follow where they led? Sometimes the best adventures begin when we stop overthinking and trust someone else to show us the way. What do you think? Would you let someone take charge of your happiness? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If this story moved you, hit that like button, subscribe for more, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next chapter. Thanks for joining me on this journey.